All Form 5 students, how are you? Today I want to discuss trigonometric. Okay, this is a question that many students actually try to avoid for trigo. Okay, try to go for trigo, alright? Actually, it's not so tough, and it's more on theory. Okay, let's see. You are given sine theta equal to square root of 1 minus k square. So when you see sine, cos, tangent, you always draw a right angle, triangle, trigo. Okay, it must be a right angle, okay? So first of all, the first step, you draw 4 quadrants with a triangle, and then the triangle must be adjacent to the x-axis, okay? So if sine theta is positive, and it can be first quadrant and second quadrant, but you see the word obtuse. Okay, the obtuse means more than 90 to 180. So your triangle must be drawn on the second quadrant, okay? Second quadrant. Then after you draw the right angle triangle, you have to label all the sides. For trigo, that is what we do. Normally we sketch a right angle triangle first, then we label all the side. Okay, the side is, okay, sine theta is SOH. So that means the opposite is 1 minus k square and square root, and the hypotenuse is nothing means it's over 1. So we label, and then we have to find the other side. Okay, so we use Pythagoras theorem. So trigo is always something to do with the triangle, right angle triangle, something to do with the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, alright, so now we will use a Pythagoras theorem. Let's say the side is y. So we want to find the y square, okay, plus 1 minus k square root, and then we square it, equal to the hypotenuse square. 1 square is 1, and we try to solve. So we solve carefully. We take the hypotenuse 1 minus 1 plus k square. So we get our y square is k square. That means the y, which is the length for the blue horizontal line, is actually k. Okay, the length is k. Okay, it was not given, so you have to find on your own. So that's why this question become tough, because you have to find the side on your own. Then the question is asking for cosec. Cosec is 1 over sine theta. So just substitute 1 over square root 1 minus k square. And please always remind yourself, is it positive or negative at the second quadrant for sine? It is positive, right? So answer is positive. Okay, how about cos 90 minus theta? Okay, cos 90 minus theta, we can actually focus to the right angle triangle. We have another angle, which is when you plus, it should be theta plus the angle there, it should be 90. So that means that angle, which is in green arrow, should be 90 minus theta, right? So example, the theta is 30, so the other angle will be 90 minus 30, so 60. So the relationship is, it will be always 90 minus the theta. Okay, so then we can just read our cos 90 minus theta, isn't it? So cos is CAH, okay, adjacent. Okay, so we always draw the arrow from the angle we want to read. So we draw the arrow from 90 minus theta. That means the adjacent will be 1 minus k square. Okay, 1 minus k square. Remember, adjacent is 1 minus k square. It depends on the angle. So now we are looking at 90 minus theta. So your adjacent is square root 1 minus k square. And then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So your answer will be cos 90 minus theta will be square root 1 minus k square over 1. But don't forget your quadrant is at the which quadrant? Second quadrant. So if second quadrant for cosine is negative, so your answer must come with a negative, alright? So please always, when you do trigo, please always remind yourself what is all sine teacher crazy. Alright, all sine teacher crazy means all means is positive for sine, cos and tangent for the first quadrant, right? Okay, and then sine will be positive at the first and second, cos will be first quadrant and fourth quadrant, and tangent will be first quadrant and third quadrant. So both positive. So that means each trigo got 2 quadrant whereby they are positive, and 2 quadrant they will be negative. Okay, so now we want to solve the cos 90 minus theta. Maybe you can use cos 90 minus theta is equal to sine theta. Okay, supplementary angle. Okay, so we will try to solve using any method you can use, so long as you are following the Trigo's method to do, no problem. So okay, let's redo again for part B. So we will use now we don't want to discuss part C, sorry, part B settled already, yeah? Okay, so now we want to discuss sine half theta, which is very tough for many students. They cannot solve this one. For part C, now they ask you a half angle. So when you see sine half theta, you try to check the formula list. Okay, under the formula list, you try to find the formula something to do with sine theta, and we want to relate with cos 2 theta. So cos 2 theta we have 3 formula. Okay, so one of the formula is equal to cos square theta minus sine square theta, remember? Okay, that's the first formula for cos square theta, cos 2 theta. Okay, we have another 2 cos 2 theta, which is 2 cos square theta minus 1, and one more is 2 sine square theta minus 1. So we have 3 formula. So we will choose the formula that will have sine theta. So we will choose the third one. Okay, we choose the third formula, because the third formula it comes with cos 2 theta equal to 1 minus 2 sine square theta. Okay, so we choose that formula, and then we will modify the formula. Okay, we won't choose first and second, because the first and second we actually found that it's hard for us to get the answer, especially the second one. Okay, the second one don't have sine square theta at all, and the first one got cos square and sine square, so we don't want. We just want the formula for cos 2 theta, we just only sine square theta or sine only. Okay, so now you draw a triangle. Okay, so like just now we label our side for the triangle, 1 minus k square square root and 1, and the other side just now we found is k, right? Okay, so now after you label the side, then you can modify the cos 2 theta formula. So when we modify the cos, the trigo formula, we just change the angle. So the angle 2 theta we divide by 2, so you get theta, so you write cos theta. Then 1 you copy, minus you copy. Okay, only the angle it will follow the changes. The number 1 still 1, you don't divide by 2. 1 is 1, minus still minus, and then 2 still there, sine square still there, only that theta it will become half. Okay, sine still there, sine square theta over 2, so the formula become 1 minus 2 sine square theta over 2. And then our cos theta is equal to k. Then we can substitute already lah. We can substitute and we can solve. Okay, we can solve the sine square theta in order to get the sine square half theta. Okay, we will try to simplify, and because the question don't want the square, so you have to square root the sine square half theta. Just square root your answer. Okay, sine square half theta, there is a square there, so you have to shift, rearrange until sine square theta as a subject, and then after that you try to simplify to the simplest form. Okay, so your answer will be the simplest answer. Okay, if you never simplify the answer, they will simplify your mark. Okay, so you notice that I circle the 2 theta. That means I'm going to divide the 2 theta with 2 so that I can change cos 2 theta formula become cos theta. Since I divide by 2, so that means the right hand side, the sine square 2 sine square theta, okay, the theta also have to divide by 2. Alright, so when you modify the trigo formula, you just modify the angle. The rest remain unchanged. Okay, the rest of the constant or number remain unchanged. So okay, after you rearrange, you substitute cos theta as k, and 1 minus 2 sine square, okay, 2 sine square half theta over 2. Okay, so now we shift the whole thing of the negative 2 sine square half theta to the left in order to make it positive. So it becomes 1 minus k. Do it carefully. So now you're having almost got the answer, but you still got the 2. So you bring the 2 to the right hand side, or you divide by 2 for left and right, the same. And finally, after you divide by 2, your answer still got square, sine square half theta equal to 1 minus k over 2, right? So because the question never show the square, so that means the question want you to square root, okay, square root the sine square half theta. Okay, so you make it square root. That means your sine square theta over 2 is the square root of 1 minus k over 2. Okay, let me show you. The sine theta over 2 is equal to 1 minus k over 2 with the square root. That is the final answer. Okay, understand? So for trigo, it will come out in paper 1. Okay, for short question. So actually it's not tough. You just keep on practice. Okay, keep on practice. Then it will be easy for you. Okay, things that difficult, if you practice every day, it will become easy. Okay, most important is we must try to practice every day and try to get familiar with the topic that we are not familiar. So I'm sure if you practice every day, you can do well in your SPM exam. Okay, I think I stop here. That's all for today. Hope you enjoy my video teaching. Have a nice day. Bye.